Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand.
Today, my guest is kickboxer, professional wrestler, and actress Anya. Anya, how are you?
Hey, hi Brian. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, everyone who's watching it. That's exciting.
Thank you. So, what made you want to get into sports in general?
Oof, where do I start? Well, growing up in Russia, it's kind of part of our culture. Like most of us, we do sports. It's like either you choose creative life, like if you can sing, parents will send you to like piano school and stuff like that. And I couldn't sing. I was gymnast first. I really wanted to do the figure skating, but I was too tall. And I remember I was 5 years old, and my mom brought me to the train, and she looks at me. She's like, "Well, she's not gonna make it, so I'm not gonna take her."
Mhm.
And then she brought me to do gymnastics, which I didn't succeed, but I became very athletic. And when I was like a teenager, I mean, growing up in Russia, it's never been safe,
Mhm.
and it's a lot of crime and violence on the streets. It was kind of like normal. I don't want to say normal, but it was kind of like part of what how we lived. And like my parents were concerned, and I was hanging out with guys that older than me. I was smoking cigarettes. I was drinking when I was like 13. And my dad's like, well, for self-defense, I think you should try like boxing, kickboxing. And he brought me to the boxing gym, and I loved it. It was, first of all, it was only guys, so I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, this is fun. Like I'm just like training with a bunch of boys, good-looking boys. I can do that. And I fell in love with it, and I stayed. I stick to that.
So, how long did you train? Because you're a badass. You're legitimate here. So, how long did it take? Before you started doing these competitions?
I started kind of right away, and it's late. Like to start martial arts at 14, it's kind of late. So I
Hmm.
had to catch up a lot. Usually, guys start when it's like 7, 8, and so I had to catch up quite a lot. And my coach, he brought me like a few months in. He put me like to local competition, and I won. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you to nationals," and he brought me to nationals, and I lost. And I didn't like that feeling.
Hmm.
After losing, I'm like, I don't want to ever lose again. So I'm just gonna do whatever it takes to win. And then I started taking it really seriously, and I was training twice a day. Before school in the morning, I would do runs and cardio and like technical stuff, and in afternoons I would do sparring. So I was a machine. Now, if I work out once a day, it's a good day. But back then, I took it really seriously. Yeah.
Did you plan on doing this, for a long time, or is it something you just kind of fell into once you got really, really good at it?
I kind of thought like, okay, my first goal was to make it to the national team, because once you're in a national team, it's fun. You travel, the government pays for your competitions, for your gear. Like you travel abroad, you hang out with like national team, and it's nice, it's fun. Um, you spend time at the camps, which is like Olympic level camps, like super nice facilities. And my first goal was to do that, to get to the national team. Once I've done that, I'm like, well, I need to win like every competition I'm part of. So I just wanted to be better than anybody else in my category.
Hmm.
And I didn't know when I'm gonna stop. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it until it's fun. Like once I stop having fun, I'm gonna switch to something else.
Now, is that what brought you over to America?
Yep, I kind of achieved everything I wanted to achieve in Russia, and I'm like, I need to challenge myself and do
Hmm.
something different, like next level, and learn different language. And I moved to the States. I always wanted to live in another country, not because I had a bad childhood, but I had great childhood, but
Hmm.
because of politics. And like my family is very free and liberal, and like, and Russia is very conservative.
Hmm.
I never felt like I fit in. Like I always had troubles in school because I was training and I would miss classes, and they like did not understand it. So yeah, once I moved, I was thinking if I should do boxing or MMA, because kickboxing is big in Europe or in Asia, but not in America.
Hmm.
So I was kind of like in a place of choosing, and I was kind of leaning towards boxing because it's the female boxing now Olympic sports. And then I got approached by WWE and I gave it a chance. And again, I fell in love with it. After my tryout, I was like, this is so hard. I love it.
So how did they approach you? How did they find you?
Back then, I had a manager. I
Hmm.
had a manager, and we had a website for my kickboxing career. And I think he sent an email with my resume or something, and they replied yes, and it was kind of surprisingly easy.
Hmm.
And I'm like, now when I think back, I kind of try to make use this approach to everything, because if you get in your head and you put like your desirable job on a pedestal,
Hmm.
and it puts so much stress and pressure on it because you want it so badly. But with WWE, I never thought about it. I'm like, oh, let's just try it, like as a game. It was like for me a game. Like I'm in a new country. I'll do whatever. I'll try everything. And it just happened. I'm like, wow. And he's like, do you understand? It's kind of a big deal. I'm like, yes and no. Like, I just thought it was a tray out. I'm like, what does even tray out means? Like, I had to Google the translation of a tray out,
Hmm.
Um, yeah, after that, tryout was fun. It was in Tampa. You probably know the facility. It's a W facility. The first day, I remember some of the. I'm trying to remember who it was, but I don't remember. Somebody just picked me up, hold me like that, and like, throw me to the floor in the ring. I'm like, holy shit! But I think this is like where a combination of came together, because I never made it to the top in gymnastics, and I
Hmm.
always wanted to. And wrestling reminded me a lot of gymnastics. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I can combine my love for martial arts with gymnastics. And I was just everything was hurting so badly, but I didn't care. I'm like, I'm in pain, but I love it.
So how long did they offer you a contract right after the tryout, or was there a little time period in between?
Good question. Let me try to remember. I remember it was like a week. I was
Hmm.
in Tampa for a week. I was training with them, like I was watching their shows. Then I think I drove back home. I was in Miami. I was living in Miami back then. So I drove to Miami and they told me they're gonna get back to me like in a week or so. I
Hmm.
think it was max like a week or 2 weeks when I heard back from Canon. Canyon or Canon, the name of the manager who was developing. I don't know if he still was the team or not. Yeah, and they offered me a contract. I did like my medical exams. I don't even. I had to fly somewhere. I'm trying to remember. It was like a small town, not in Florida, somewhere else. And yeah, I did my actually medical exams together with Charlotte Flair, Ashley.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, we met at the. I'm like, oh, she's so much fun. Like she's a gymnast as well, and and she's like, I'm daughter of Ric Flair. Like, I had no idea who Ric Flair was. I'm like, okay, cool. And I found out, and of course, yeah, because I knew like Rock and I knew like some big wrestlers that I grew up watching, but I
Hmm.
guess Flair was before I grew up. So and I was in my early 20s when I got signed with WWE. So yeah, that was cool.
So was this the transition period between FCW and NXT when they were bringing you in?
Exactly. I think, yeah, my tryout was FCW and
Hmm.
my contract was with NXT. So actually, this transition happened right like when they signed me. So I think me, Ashley, Flair, Sasha Banks, we were the first NXT talents, and everybody else who were before us, they were FCW talents. Yeah.
So how was your time at the Performance Center? I mean, obviously it was different starting out, learning how to do all this stuff.
It was now looking back, I just like, wow, that was so intense. And
Hmm.
I have so much respect for all the wrestlers, because that was, I've never been in military, but this is, I think, how the military looks
Hmm.
like. You don't have your life outside of that. Like,
Hmm.
it's you basically at the gym from like Monday 8 in the morning, you're ready at the training. And we all kind of live nearby. Tampa is small, so you
Hmm.
like we all lived on Wilshire Boulevard somewhere nearby, so it's like 5 minute drive. So if 8 a.m. you're ready at the training facility. Mondays also wait you in, make sure you're in a weight category, like wherever you have to stay skinny and lean. That actually drove a lot of people nuts, and some girls had eating disorders because of that. Like
Hmm.
tell you directly, oh, you need to stay in this weight, but like indirectly they hint you, like like this is what we want you to look like. Now it changed because they hired some bigger girls and
Hmm.
trying to, because society changes, right?
Yep.
So, but when I was there, I was had so much pressure, and I remember Ashley Flair, she would like wake me up 6 in the morning on Monday. We will live nearby, and she would like, okay, we need to stay in shape. She's like, let's do cardio together before the weight in, so we lose an additional few pounds before they weigh us in. So that's what we used to do. We would go for a run, then shower, go to the weight in and out category a little bit less, and then work out for another like until 1 p.m. Like from 8 in the morning until like noon or 1ish, you at the training facility. Then you have a lunch break, you go home, you eat, and then you have to drive to the place where you lift weights.
Hmm.
It was a John Cena gym, a little bit outside of Tampa, like a 45-minute drive. You usually carpool with other wrestlers to save money on gas. And you lift weights, and then you come back home, and you're dead. By that time, you like
Yeah.
your body's just like giving up. And Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, this is where the shows are. So you still do the 2 workouts a day, and
Hmm.
still at night you either work local show at FCW NXT in Tampa, or you have to drive around Florida to do. And if you drive around Florida, you have to set up as a ring, set up chairs, set up the merch table. Then you have to wrestle. Then have to clean up everything, and then go back home. So by the time you get home, like I remember like Thursday, sometimes you get home like 1, 2 in the morning, and Friday you have to be at the gym at 8 in the morning again. So it
There's
was
no
like
life.
it's just no, like I didn't know. I only knew two people outside of NXT. It was my hairdresser, gay hairdresser, and chiropractor. And we didn't had money because they paid us little basic salary, which
Hmm.
was enough just to cover your rent and food, basically. Even like to do gears, I remember like I had to put my money on credit card to buy gears. And so basically you don't have enough money left to do like massage. You don't have time, but even if you would have time on Sunday to do massage, it's just expensive. And there was one chiropractor in Tampa. I wish I would remember his name because he was so kind. He was adjusting all the wrestlers for free. Like he was like a wrestling fan, and he understood how difficult it is for us. And like sometimes you go there during your lunchtime and you just see like the entire roster sitting and waiting to get adjusted. I'm like that. Oh my gosh, I need to find his name and just send him flowers and stuff because what he did for us was very appreciated for sure.
It seems like that time period, and it's happened before, but because they launched the performance center, they had a plethora of talent. They had something to prove. Like they just maybe misused a bunch of people or signed a bunch of people and then didn't know what to do with them because they wanted to start this thing off strong. And I feel like a lot of people didn't get the opportunity that they were promised or told or deserved because they had so many people, I would assume, in and out of that facility daily.
It honestly, like anytime you hear like, oh, the coach wants to talk to you,
Hmm.
like either you're in trouble or like what's gonna happen. And if you see call coming in from Canon, like on your phone, you're like, oh, am I getting fired?
Hmm.
I agree with you. It was, and there are so many guys that didn't get the chance, like you said, they deserve, just because there's such a limited. I think now it's more time on TV,
Hmm.
right? There's NXT division and stuff like that, but still, it's still limited.
Hmm.
Um, it's like only now after living in the states for like 10 years, I understand the politics. And I'm stuck at it still, but there's so much politics in WWE. It's you just have to be this type of a person who understands the politics, because me coming first of all from Russia, second of all from being a professional athlete, it's just like you just have to be good, like you have to
Hmm.
be just professional and perform and deliver. And in WWE, besides being good and know what you do, you need to be good at politics.
Hmm.
And for me that was the hardest part, and I've seen so many guys struggling with it as well. Just like you have to be smart with who you're friends with, you have to be smart how you talk to your coaches. It's yeah, it's a lot.
And it's like you could do the dumbest thing, and it may seem small to you, but then they're like released, fired.
It's
It,
yeah. It just like honestly, I've seen guys just get in trouble because they were hanging out with the wrong person, and I'm like, I never understood why it's wrong. Like just because somebody doesn't like this person, it doesn't mean he's bad. Like just let me
hmm.
make my own judgment. Um, yeah, I hope I don't know how it's now. I hope it
Hmm.
changed, but back then it was yeah, it was a little bit of toxic, I have to
Yeah.
say.
Now, as you were training, was there any talks for any plans for what they were going to do with you, or what they had an idea for?
It was, I mean, obviously I was always like a heel, a
Mm-hmm.
badass. A few wrestlers pitched me like to work with them, like to be a valet. Brodus Clay loved me. He wanted me to be one, but I'm like, you already have two girls. You don't need another girl. Like it's like dance with you on stage. So, but we still tried it a few like local shows in Florida, which I appreciate. So he tried to help me because that's how it happens. Like, right, one bigger wrestler wants like to bring you up and see potential in you. Um, and once I got released, I was talking to somebody from the Wyatt family. So apparently, what they had in mind, they wanted me to do part of Wyatt family and made me white trash, which would be fun. I would love that. I'm like, when I heard it, after I'm trying to remember, was it Wyatt? I think it was Wyatt who told me that. He's like, yeah, like we wanted you to be part of it. That was their goal. I'm like, well, that would be fun, but probably it wasn't meant to be.
Mm-hmm. So, did they give you a reason for your release, or you just get a phone call and that was that? Because it seems like there's different stories for different people, whether they got hired or fired, and it's some got a reason, some just said they just didn't have a reason. It was just whatever.
That was the first time I ever got fired.
Mm.
After that, I'm like, I would never work for anybody else by
Yeah.
myself. Yeah, I broke my arm,
Mm.
and I remember I was after the surgery, maybe I think it was like 3 weeks after the surgery. I still had a cast on,
Hmm.
and but I would show up like to training just to watch. I don't think I could drive back then. Somebody would pick me. I think it was Ashley who was picking me up and driving me back home. So I would just still see the watch. And one day, and that was the time when they already built the Orlando facility.
Hmm.
They told us like, guys, you will need to break your lease and like start looking to places in Orlando to rent. And I was already like searching for a place to rent in Orlando. And I got a call from Canon, and he was like, "Well, we love you, but we're moving to a new facility. We're cutting the roster. We have to let you go." And that I did not expect, like at
Hmm.
all. Like it was like I know guys were always like fearful of being like fired, but I'm like, I work so hard. Like, why would they ever fire me? Like I didn't say any, and I didn't drink. I didn't do any drugs. Like I was an athlete all my life, so and I didn't sleep around. Like it's like
Hmm.
was like why would they, like I don't have any reason. But and second of all, why I never thought of it that I might get fired because also guys that were injured, they kind of never let them go.
Hmm.
And then Kenan said, and I asked him, I'm like, how you can release me? I'm still in recovery. I'm injured. He's like, oh no, if you read your contract, it says we can. And then I read my and when I signed this contract, I barely spoke English, and
Yeah.
I was just like, well, lesson learned. Now I read what I sign. But back then, like, I'm like, I don't know, it's like 12 pages, 20 pages contract. Like, I'm not gonna read it. I mean, I tried, but it's complex. It's a contract. So yeah, it was little tiny words in a little disclaimer somewhere in the bottom that yes, they can release you if you get injured. And I think I was the first one who got released while being injured. Then they released few more guys and they dropped them from the contract. But what my insight is, they knew because they put a plate in my arm,
Hmm.
and with the plate, it's kind of dangerous to wrestle because it was going from like elbow all the way up, and like here the skin is very thin, like anything could happen. So they knew that I might need additional surgery later on, and that's exactly what happened. A year after I had second surgery to take it out, so they knew it's going to be like not 3 months recovery. It's going to be like at least a year and a half recovery. So they kind of just, I guess it makes sense number wise, right? Financially.
Yeah.
Yeah, which sucks, but guys, read your contracts before you sign anything.
How has life been after, your WWE experience? Did you try to wrestle at all, or did you just move
It was
forward?
it was hard looking back. Like I have so much respect like for me because I was like 20. Gosh, how old I was? 24. I was depressed, but as a
Hmm.
Russian woman, like we don't have the word depressed in Russia. I mean, we do have it, but we don't ever talk about it. So I didn't know what depression is because all my life, like I used to make money with my body. I was an athlete, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that was hard. I'm like, what do I do now? Like, um, how do I start my different career? Well, how do I transition? So because I didn't see it coming, I'm like, well, in my mind, I was like, I can easily do sports until I'm 30.
Hmm.
Um, that was really hard, and especially it's also kind of WWE tell you not directly but indirectly. That gosh, I'm giving you so much secrets and insights. I hope so. Because they do make us sign NDA, but who cares?
Hmm.
They um, inside the teams they kind of tell you, oh, if somebody gets released, oh, it's better if you don't stay in touch with them. It's like it's better if you don't like communicate. So like you kind of it's hard, like like you lose, but also at that moments you see who real friends are and who are
Hmm.
not, because those wrestlers that stayed in touch and that been supportive, they're friends with me, and I appreciate them and love them as my family until nowadays. But at the same time you see the people that stop communicating with you, like, oh, I see,
Hmm.
you showed your true face.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I got so lucky because I got like acting jobs right almost right after, like after actually between first and second surgery I was already acting. So that kind of helped me with depression and helped me to like integrate back to like real life,
Hmm.
because it's like kind of being, I've never been in prison, but I think it's what people experience, like when you're in a system and then you suddenly taken out of the system, like you have to create your own life from scratch.
Hmm.
And this is what happens to everybody who leaves WWE. Like you have to create your own schedule, your own life from scratch, your new friends and acquaintances. Like it's like you feel like a little chicken just like pop from the bag. You're like, what do I do now? Where? Yeah.
So, what are you up to today?
I transitioned to stand up comedy, which I love so much. Moved to Los Angeles, still do acting. I got in the ring a few times for wrestling, just to overcome my fear, because I had a fear after getting injured. I had a fear of like falling again or doing
Hmm.
something. So I'm like, okay, I just need to get in the ring just to get it out of my system. But yeah, I've been doing acting and stand up. That's what I'm passionate nowadays.
Do you have any upcoming shows, or do you interact with fans still, or?
I do. Actually, I have a comedy show called Clotheslines and Punchlines.
Hmm.
It's with stand-up comedians who have professional wrestling background. So we have a show coming up. I don't know when you're gonna release it, but we have a show coming up June 13th at Hollywood Improv in Los Angeles. We have Ryan Nemes from AEW, who is a comic too and a very good friend of mine. We have Nick Nemes, his brother, WWE superstar. Jen Sturger, she used to be an NXT developmental and she wrestled I think she was a host for AEW as well. Jay Washington, indie wrestler, he's hosting the show and co-producing it with me. And Brad Williams is headlining. So yeah, I kind of like put together a show with wrestlers slash stand-up comedians,
Hmm.
and I'm for that one I'm super excited.
Well, I'm glad that even after WWE, that you didn't fall flat. You persevered, and you're doing good now.
Yeah, I mean you have to. You don't have a choice, right? You have to
Yeah,
live life.
because
You have
it
to.
can be. I couldn't imagine, like you said, you made money, with your body your whole life. Like you can't just go back into the workforce. I feel like that would be hard to just do a regular 9 to 5 or.
Yeah, and it's like, and I remember one time that's why a lot of wrestlers like they get depressed and they get on pills, so they become addicts. I understand it. I don't judge
Mhm.
it because it's extremely hard. And then WWE send you letters. Oh, if you're an addict or if you're depressed, call this number. I'm like, okay, how about you stop making us depressed and addicts so we don't have to call these numbers?
Uh, Before I let you go, I just want to ask one more question. For people that want to get into sports in general, whether it's wrestling, kickboxing, what advice would you give them?
Oh, you have to love it.
Hmm.
If you love it, and always in MMA learn how to protect yourself, and don't, because it's so like when you love something you want to do it so much, but I feel like with any sports you have to understand it's not a sprint, it's a long run.
Hmm.
Just and when you're young you're healthy, you don't think about those things, but like you have to eat right, you have to get enough sleep, you have to get massages, like you just have to take care, like your body is your vehicle, it's your instrument. It's like your car, if we don't change oil eventually your car is going to stop driving, right?
Hmm.
So it's same with your body. Like it doesn't matter how passionate you are, and I'm like that. I'm like I want to do like everything, and right now I want to like instead of 10 hours, like you just want to spend more time doing it, but be smart and think about it on the long run because you don't want to burn yourself.
Hmm.
And like the greatest advice somebody gave me starting out, like you have to work with people who are better than you, even though you're going to feel like a loser for a while, but eventually you're going to get on the same level. And once you get to that level, you have to get to another room with people again who are better than you.
Hmm.
You have to learn from people who are better than you.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out, come on today. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate what you did for sports and professional wrestling, and I hope that we can do this again sometime.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for doing it because I think it's so important and interesting what happens in developmental. And like you said, this niche is not really covered, and we all have so many stories. And thank you for doing it. Thank you for
Thank you.
keeping us alive.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.